guys here on the Comic Culture Warrior video channel. I was joking. We're not going to talk about Batman, at least not in this segment, because we are going to talk about some non-Marvel and DC books with in the hopes of, yes, opening the discourse to books outside of the mainstream. And, you know, we do talk about it.
We do every week.
We try to. And I wanted to talk about two books that I've been reading. The first one being No Hero from local publisher Avatar Press by Warren Ellis and Juan Jose Rip. No Hero is a mini-series where Warren Ellis is again dealing with superheroes. It's kind of, I look at No Hero as kind of Warren Ellis's Watchmen in a way.
You know, it's all right. Yeah, this is issue 6. I haven't been reading this series, though I did like Black Summer, which it's the same team.
This is kind of like the mirror image of Black Summer.
Yeah. And I read this issue, and actually it was really fucking good. I don't even know the backstory. There's only one issue left, so I'm kind of already jumping on pretty late. But that's exactly what I thought. Reading this, I'm like, kind of reminiscent a little bit of Watchmen. That's exactly what I thought when I read it.
You're learning more and more. With No Hero, if you haven't read it, is essentially the story of these the super team called the Levelers, or they started as the Levelers, but they're these revolutionaries who got together, discovered a way to take LSD and use it to modify the human physiology so that you have superpowers. And in issue 6, you find out more and more what these quote-unquote superheroes have done. When you read this, the heroes of No Hero come across more as the Authority or even the Dark Avengers, where they're doing things essentially to have control, and they justify their control by saying what we do is for the betterment of everyone. And there are all these little historical bits that Warren Ellis drops along the way. Yeah. What their solution to the Iranian hostage crisis was, how they dealt with apartheid in South Africa. You find that the existence of superheroes in the world has a profound effect on society, and yet it's not that much different than the world we live in, which is kind of, I find, ironic. So if you haven't been reading this series, first start with Black Summer, which was really good, although I was a little disappointed by the ending. No Hero is kind of like the other side of that coin. Another book, and this is something that, for all the criticisms that we give to comic companies, local publisher Devil's Due is doing everything they can to promote Hack Slash. Now, Hack Slash is the creation of Tim Seeley. Those who know of Tim, he was primarily artist on G.I. Joe for the longest time when Devil's Due owned that property, when they had that license. And they launched this book. We've talked about it before. Hack Slash is sort of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but with slashers,
serial killers,
horror movie serial killers. Not just serial killers, but the kind that populate horror movies. Right. And for all the talk that we've given about comic books that seem to objectify and depict women as sexual objects, this book is very subversive in it that, yes, if you look at there are two covers on this issue they call the Entry Wound issue. It's priced at $250. This is starting off a new story arc for folks who've never read Hack Slash.
Yeah, and this actually came out like a couple months ago.
It came out a couple months ago, that's right. But you read one cover, very clean-looking, suggestive cover, and on the other side, Tim Seeley did another cover that was more of a cheesecake-type thing. But when you read this, it's really it's a very clever book. Cassie Hack, the protagonist in this book, is a very self-determined character. She knows that she has a bit of sex appeal to her, and she uses it. Because what is it that happens to the sexy girl in the horror movie? She always dies. So it's kind of like makes her the creep magnet. But she's also going out being very proactive and going after the killers that stalk other women in these types of genre stories. And in this book, and I'll tell you, it's not an all ages book because the way the killer in this book tries to kill one of his victims by literally suffocating him while he's in the process of orally pleasuring a woman. You know, that had to be one of the most clever laugh out loud moments I've read. And what is Cassie? Well, what does she say when she goes to stop? Oh no, you don't, Petey. Nobody gets off while mumbling in the moss on my watch. You know, that's you're not going to read that in very many comic books. That's a really, kind of a funny, clever line in there, which just goes to show that this is a book that, in my opinion, is really underappreciated. And I don't even know what the word. Is it a top 100 seller? I mean, this book is like not even shows up on the radar for a lot of comic book readers until the movie finally gets made based on this property, because they keep pushing currently in development as a film, but
there's already a film in development that's almost done that rips this premise off.
Yeah, rips it off, right.
And I've actually seen Tim Seeley on Blade Disgusting kind of talking about that, which is kind of a shitty thing that somebody went and did that. But
so, it's unfortunate, because what they're trying to do with this book is really make it so that people will read it. They're putting it out there.
And I'll tell you, I known about Hack Slash ever since it's come out. It's been out for years. I never got around to reading it. It was one of those things that I always meant to. Mm-hmm. And then Elliot wanted to talk about this today, so I'm like, all right, I'll it's a short story. I'll check it out. I read it. I love horror movies, and this, to me, it's always been one of those things like, why haven't I fucking read this book yet? The humor was really awesome, and I don't know, it was really good. And now, after reading this, I'm going to go out and probably buy the first omnibus of it, because it was just really well done. I like the sense of humor. I just kind of like all the little in-jokes about slasher flicks and stuff like that. It was just really well done, and I did not know it was this good.
Especially if you like, slasher films. Right. You're going to like, this book is just a fun book. It's a fun book. Again, though...
And actually, the jokes in here actually work, too. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of times I'll be reading it, and, people try to write funny dialogue, and it always falls flat. And I couldn't believe that the jokes were actually pretty funny, and they were actually pretty clever. So.
And Tim Seeley's a funny guy. And there's a whole little cult following surrounding this book. I mean, in here you also see there are a lot of folks who have dressed up like the characters from Hack Slash. And look, guys, if at the very least, if you want to get an in with some really hot fangirls that are out there, read this book. It'll give you something to talk to them about. So,
or just read it because it's a good book.
It's a good book. All right. When we come back, we will talk about, we will talk about Batman, but that will also lead us into Last Rants. We'll see you then.